Everyone, this is an emergency message. Trump and Putin's conversation did not achieve a 30-day comprehensive ceasefire, but secured a promise to stop attacking each other's energy facilities. Let me explain first. During the winter, in particular, Russia bombed Ukraine's power facilities and union facilities, making life very difficult for Ukrainians. Frequent power outages, but Ukraine used drones to bomb Russia's deep inland oil refining facilities, bombing heavily over the past 4 to 5 months. Both sides have suffered severe losses. This matter about a temporary ceasefire, initially like this. European countries and Ukraine had made an urgent appeal to temporarily halt attacks on energy facilities. The result achieved this goal. Let's look at how the whole situation unfolded and see what my comments are. All right, Trump and Putin had a conversation, agreed to pause attacks on energy facilities, did not agree to a 30-day ceasefire. All right, first, they talked for 90 minutes. This was announced by the White House. No mention of whether Ukraine and Europe would participate in the talks. It's not feasible without Ukraine. You ceasefire. It works if Ukraine halts. You have to talk to Ukraine somehow, right? First, for lasting peace, a way to achieve permanent peace, at least to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict in the long term. Achieve peace. First of all, do not attack energy facilities. Also, do not fire in the Black Sea. Do not fire in the Black Sea, including sometimes Russian ships in the Black Sea, launching sea-to-land attacks to strike Ukraine. Ukraine's attack is using unmanned vessels in the Black Sea to attack Crimea. Then initiate a comprehensive ceasefire. Ceasefire Black Sea. Ceasefire negotiations for permanent peace. Technical negotiations to be held in the Middle East, specifically Saudi Arabia. All right. U.S.-Russian leaders have called. White House statement. Russia open to talks with U.S. military. The U.S. explores methods for achieving a comprehensive long-term solution to eliminate root causes of the Ukraine crisis. The root cause is Russia feels Ukraine in NATO threatens its security. This is a response. Also need to ensure you really need to protect Ukraine's security, the integrity of sovereignty, are Russia's legitimate interests in the security domain. Legitimate interests. But legitimate interest. That is to say, Russia is very afraid of Ukraine having a lot of armaments or foreign troops stationed there. All right, the Russian statement is different, so let's take a look. First, these 3 points are the same. All right, later, support not harming Ukraine's security. Now Ukraine's energy sites test on the 30th has already ordered the Russian military to comply. Also on Wednesday, Russia and Ukraine exchanged 175 prisoners, released 23 severely injured Ukrainian soldiers. These should have been mentioned earlier. Putin. Significant bombing was big. I immediately ordered a ceasefire. All right. What else is he talking about? Russia has put forward a series of demands. How to effectively control the ceasefire on the front line. That is to say, with a ceasefire, what if you can't stop the shelling? Actually, someone needs to monitor the ceasefire. How to effectively manage the front line ceasefire. Shouldn't there be someone there to monitor it? Is it using satellites or what? Or is it using aircraft to monitor? Stop Ukraine's guidance. Foreign countries should stop providing military support to Ukraine. These 2 points mean there's no need to discuss further. Ukraine cannot mobilize more people to arm its forces. There are no restrictions on Russia. This is one-sided. This means tying Ukraine's hands and feet, leaving it to Russia's mercy. Ukraine can't fight. Russia feels secure. This means Ukraine becomes a vassal state of Russia. Secondly, foreign countries are not allowed to provide military aid to Ukraine. But Russia is a large country, and it produces its own weapons. Its weapons are being reorganized. This means Russia's weaponry can increase. Ukraine's weaponry cannot increase. At this point, it's impossible to agree, especially not allowing Ukraine to mobilize. Not allowing European countries to supply weapons to Ukraine. This doesn't need to be discussed. The Russian side said they made these demands. But when Trump was interviewed by Fox News, he didn't mention it. He didn't acknowledge it. Who is bluffing? I believe it was definitely brought up. Perhaps it wasn't presented very sternly. Trump felt it was a casual response. Trump said during the Fox News interview, "We believe we had a very good conversation. In 2 hours, we will send." Summarizing her discussion, Com talked about other things regarding the issue with Iran. Did Putin mention any non-negotiable conditions? There are reports saying Kremlin media stated, "They asked you to stop aid to Ukraine, to reach a multi-level agreement in the future. Requested U.S. stop military aid to Ukraine. Did this happen?" He did not. "We did not discuss aid. Aid wasn't talked." That's what Trump said. Who do you believe? All right, Ukrainian President Zelensky visiting Finland responded to call by the way U.S. and Russian. Said Ukraine supports the U.S. proposal to suspend attacks on energy facilities. He reiterated Europe must join peace negotiations. Allies not cut off military cooperation. Key is not to cut off military cooperation. CNN said actually why Russia? Because attacks are useless now. By summer, those heating facilities are no longer important. A ceasefire on energy facilities is not considered a major concession. For Kiev, Kiev cannot attack its refineries. Giving Russia a breather actually benefits everyone. Russia agreed to a limited ceasefire. Not as initially envisioned by Trump. Actually, the talks fell through. According to the previous exchange process, actually, the exchange of 175 prisoners of war had been agreed upon long ago. As for Russia saying to form a working group with the U.S., this is the statement from the diplomatic committee. It actually represents a severe lack of interest. If interested, they should send someone key. A working group lacks sincerity. All right, Zelensky posted on the 18th. On the 19th, the U.S. proposed, 1 year since the proposal for a ceasefire at sea and on the front lines. 1 year ago, this proposal could have been implemented early on. Putin is prolonging this war. Pressure must be applied to make Moscow understand that this war must end. He did not oppose it. All right, but the Ukrainian people don't believe it. Because Russia is. Since 2014, Ukraine and Russia have signed 25 ceasefire agreements. Each time, Russia does not comply, so the Ukrainian people don't believe it. Senior European officials and those familiar with life in Moscow say. Putin recently met with a U.S. envoy and has made stopping arms supplies a precondition for a ceasefire. The supply of arms must be stopped. Russia hopes to stop all weapon deliveries to Ukraine, but the minimum goal is to stop U.S. aid, because Europe would never agree. I tell everyone, ceasefire, agree to a ceasefire. It depends on who benefits from the ceasefire. What does it mean to benefit someone during the ceasefire phase? Who will receive more support in terms of manpower and resources? Russia is a large country, has 140 million people. Its defense sites are much larger than Ukraine's. During the ceasefire, it can replenish the front line with manpower and equipment. If Ukraine loses foreign aid, it would almost be impossible to replace troops. In this case, a ceasefire would benefit Moscow. However, Ukraine will certainly not agree. Europe will not agree. European countries mobilized. There will be a lot of military equipment for Ukraine. Is preparing for the U.S. to stop aid. To cope with the U.S. stopping aid, if the U.S. does not aid Ukraine, if the U.S. agrees to stop aid, it would still be a significant blow to Ukraine temporarily, especially in terms of the warheads for Patriot missiles, F-16, those devices, as well as in terms of intelligence and satellite intelligence. Huang Yi and the French Foreign Affairs advisor said, a ceasefire should not be imposed by a third party. It cannot serve only the interests of one country. All parties and interests involved should participate. China stands on Ukraine's side. A ceasefire cannot be forced on Ukraine by the U.S. Ukraine must genuinely agree. It cannot serve interests of one country. If that's the case, whose interests does it serve? Russia's interests. Russia can continue to rearm. Ukraine does not rearm. All parties involved, including Ukraine, and all relevant interests should participate. Europe. He was in France. He said this in France. Taking a stance on Europe's side because US does this. He wants to go against it. But a few hours after the call, the Russian military launched an airstrike on the interactive energy network, raising doubts about Putin, whether he intends to enter a ceasefire. It's always like this, isn't it? All right, on the 18th, the German federal parliament, let me show you, has passed by more than 2/3. Needs to pass the Senate regarding defense spending exceeding 1% of GDP. Can be exempted from the government's debt limit, debt break mechanism. Each year can raise. Debt amount raised is set. It's 0.5% of GDP. Can raise unlimited debt to fund the armed forces and provide military aid to Ukraine. Establish a special fund of 500 billion euros. Defense receives fund of 100 to 150 billion. He is now preparing European countries to make a firm decision, to make some sacrifices, even to increase debt. I will exhaust Russia no matter what. Europe, if you include the UK, nearly 450 million people. GDP is 15 times that of Russia. As long as they have determination, they will definitely exhaust Russia. How much money can Russia use? For military armament, at most 100 billion a year. At most 100 billion a year. It can't be more than 100 billion US dollars. All right, and for dual-use facilities, an additional investment for climate neutrality by 2045. All right, we hope the ceasefire can continue. No matter what, at least a ceasefire on energy will improve the living standards of Ukrainians. We hope for a longer-term ceasefire. If for employment, do you all remember over the past 3 years, I have said, ceasefire will be a ceasefire, will be a ceasefire in place. Ceasefire in place only prolongs the war. It doesn't mean the war is over. All right, I also think within a few months, it's likely there will be a ceasefire in place. This segment ends here.